Um, yeah, that was a crap sandwich, and there's no need for a welcome, welcome, welcome. That doesn't that what we just witnessed today doesn't warrant that. Defensively, I'll give you a welcome, welcome, welcome. Offensively, jeez, dude, like that. Okay, first off, Oklahoma, in air quotes, won 16-12.
Oh, I've never been a part of an OU football game, never covered an OU football game, Brandon, that was a win technically that ended up in the win
Army
column, but felt
2018.
less like a win. I don't even know if Army, like I don't even know if that qualifies because like there's no way around it, Brandon.
No, it's crap.
There is no way to begin to sugarcoat it. Like there's no way that you can diminish
Hey, real
the
quick,
atrocity of what we watched. What's most unbelievable about it all is that they did win the football game.
um,
And
to pick,
I love the fact. I love the fact. I will say this amidst it all. I love the fact that Brent Venables, the first thing he did after the game got over was he basically acknowledged, yeah, we didn't deserve to win that game.
no, they didn't. Um, to put it in perspective of just how bad the offense is,
You really want to go
was
down this route?
no, we're going down the route.
Okay, let's do it.
How many yards did the leading rusher have?
Surprise me.
12 on 6 carries.
Oh no.
1.8 yards a carry, mind you. Jackson Arnold averaged 2.2. He was actually the leading yardage. The rest of the team averaged a -3 yards a carry. Outside of Gavin Sawchuk, Javonte Barnes, like how?
Hang
How?
on a second. You said the leading rusher had 12 yards?
Yeah.
You must be looking at the wrong box score. You might be
Oh,
looking
it
at
was
quarter
fourth
by quarter.
quarter. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I
Javante
just realized.
Barnes, I was about to
Sorry,
say,
it's 2 o'clock in the morning, people.
yeah, I was about to say, I knew it was that bad, or I knew it was bad. I didn't realize
I
it was
had
that
40
bad, but
yards. He had 40. That's
he
still
had
bad.
40 yards on 12 carries.
Well,
40
that
yards on
was the
12
fourth
carries.
quarter yardage when they were trying to stall the game out. That shows you how bad they were at that.
Yeah. As a team, Oklahoma rushed 29 times for 75 yards. They still did a better job running the football than Houston did, which if you want to look for a silver lining,
How's
and
that possible?
it's hard to find one amidst it all. But if you really want to look for a silver lining, the defense played their tails off tonight, given the circumstances.
Yeah.
There was one busted coverage that you got to get fixed. But other than that, they were very strong and they needed to be. You needed
Well,
every single ounce of that effort. And they shut down the run. Houston couldn't run the football at all.
they did. Uh, that play that busted shouldn't even happen to begin with because Oklahoma should have had the ball. That was right after Woody Washington intercepted the pass and was
Big 12 refs.
subsequently called for pass interference when he didn't even touch that was the weirdest. That was one of the weirdest pass interference calls I've seen in a long time, by
Because
the
he
way.
played that perfectly. I
It
mean,
was
it was
amazing coverage.
textbook. It was
Yes.
beautiful coverage. And then he caps it off with a one-handed interception, only for Big 12 refs to get you one last time. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave, apparently.
Hotel California, Hotel Big 12. Yeah.
Hotel Big 12 refs.
Yeah, I don't. Oh my God, that was like brutal. Okay, so this is the first time I've ever recorded on the field, and it's okay. It's one thing to be up in the press box and looking down and seeing what's going on. You get an actual feel of just how stupid some of the stuff is on the field. Like I, there was a couple of times I was sitting there going, Did they just run a swing pass to the left and a screen to the right on consecutive plays, followed by a halfback ISO, 3 and out?
Yeah.
That
let's
was that was the offense.
I mean, let's try and sum up all of the absolutely horrific atrocities that Oklahoma committed offensively tonight because it was one enormous botch job all night long. Jake Roberts had a nice night. Jake
Yeah, he
Roberts was
did.
the bright spot. But the Sooners went 3 and out 6 times. They punted the football 8 times. They were behind the chains all freaking night.
Yeah.
They could not they could not figure out how on earth to move the ball on 1st and 10 in the direction of setting yourself up in a manageable second and later third down situation. And then to cap it all off, it just wasn't Jackson Arnold's night. I don't know what you chalk it up to, Brandon, but he could not place a deep ball to save his life. And there
He
were 7 or 8 opportunities for him to do so, and it was nowhere close at any
he's
point.
a he's aiming. So like, okay, I hate doing this, but I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say it anyways. Okay. Obviously, my son and him have the same trainer, so I know what he's being taught when he does his training because it's the same thing my kid's getting taught, and I watch them train together. So sometimes he has a propensity to, and he gets talked about this all the time. Talk too, like you got to stop aiming and trying to throw the perfect pass. Like that is one of his
Fling it.
biggest things. Like he is trying to almost he's coming up short on the deep passes because he's trying to throw it to a spot where he thinks he's going to land it right in the breadbasket and let instead of just letting the dude go get it.
Yep.
That's what you're. And when you start doing that, and that's a habit and practice of you get it, you can because you're so used to doing it, gets repetitive in practice, and at game time it's different. It's faster. And when you try to do that in a game and you throw it short, it's going to get picked. Now, I think the Burks, I think that was partly on Burks because he didn't he stemmed his route up instead of flattened it out the way he should
Talking
have
about
on
the
that.
pick here.
Yeah, the pick. So that wasn't it was on Jackson because technically Jackson should have overthrown him and let him go get it. Instead, he was trying to throw it perfect. Like put touch on it and throw it perfect. Like I he's so scared to overthrow that he's not throwing properly. And it's hard when you know what you're looking at, it's hard to watch. And I was like, it was difficult for me to watch him because you and I both know we've watched him for so long. That's
Yep.
not
Well,
Jackson out there.
no,
It's not.
a confident Jackson Arnold is lethal. A confident Jackson Arnold is an alpha dog. That was not a confident Jackson Arnold tonight.
No.
That was Jackson Arnold that was pressing. Jackson Arnold that was trying to. I mean, he should have. There was one pass that should have been picked off as well. I don't know if you remember
Yeah,
that. I
it
believe
was
it was
the
in the
out
second.
route to Burks. Yes.
Exactly. That
Yes.
pass should have been picked off, and it was a pass he should not have thrown. It
No.
was at
There
that
was two
moment that I
dudes within the
realized, oh,
vicinity. Yeah.
yeah. It was at that moment that I realized, oh, this is just like this something is off tonight because that is not the
Let
Jackson
me
Arnold
ask
we're
you.
accustomed
I
to seeing.
want to ask you if you think this, and this is my theory.
Okay.
My theory is the offense has no rhythm right now. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish rhythm wise, what they're trying to accomplish. I don't know if they're a fast offense, if they're a slow offense. They have no identity right now. Like
Well,
I firmly believe that. But I want to ask you this. Is he pressing because the run game has been so freaking bad the first 2 games of the year, that he thinks that the only way to get something going is for him to make it happen, whether he's got to force it or not?
I think that's certainly contributing. I think that's absolutely contributing because yes, the Sooners are a little bit one dimensional right now because they
Yeah.
can't run the football. The only guy that's had any success with it through the first 2 weeks has been Taylor Tatum, and we
Yeah.
did not see much of him
Yeah.
tonight.
What?
Did
That's
not see
another
much of
topic.
him at all.
Let's
Now,
dive into that later.
it also doesn't help, Brandon, that you you can't establish a rhythm offensively if you're getting behind the chains at the beginning of every single possession, which
Which is the
Oklahoma
run
was
game.
doing. If you if you can't get 4 or 5 yards on 1st and 10 to open the possession, well, at a certain point, you have no choice but to press because you got to make up for lost time. You got to
Yeah.
make up for lost yardage, and you're digging yourself a hole before the drive even gets off the ground. And so I don't think you can point the finger at one individual or one group or one anything as far as that performance goes tonight. It
No.
was all bad. It was all bad. Jake
It
Roberts had 3 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. His very first as a Sooner. It was an awesome moment. That was the lone bright spot offensively for Oklahoma. There was nothing else to redeem that performance.
yeah, it was all around just awful. Let's another topic to approach here is why in the hell do you wait till the third quarter to let Taylor Tatum touch the ball? Look, Gavin Sawchuk's going to have a phenomenal year when everything gets figured out. You and I both know that. Everybody knows that. When he gets in a rhythm, it's hard to find a better running back than Gavin Sawchuk. The problem is that the run game is so, again, no identity. I wanted to ask Venables and Latrell today, and I just didn't. I don't know why. I just stood there. And obviously, I didn't get to ask Latrell because I was talking to, I believe, was I with Grayson
You
Halton
were
at the
with
time?
Grayson Halton at the
Yeah.
time, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Um, so the musical chairs that they're playing on the offensive line, I think, has a lot to do with that right now. Like,
Saw a
there's
lot of
just,
Logan Howland tonight at left tackle
yeah, there's no cohesiveness.
because
No,
there's no
that
continuity.
there's no, yeah. Well, and yes, that exactly right. Like, so Tarquin, what the hell? Like, where did he go? Was he that bad?
What are you talking about?
You said at left tackle. You
Yeah,
saw a lot of Logan
Tarquin was
Howland.
playing right tackle. He moved from left tackle to right tackle.
Okay, so I missed it. Again, I'm looking through a small camera lens the whole time. I know you are too, but I
Yeah,
actually have
Jake
to sit
Taylor
there the
left
whole
the
play.
game.
Yeah.
Jake Taylor left the
Okay.
game. He got banged up. Tarquin slid to right
Okay.
tackle.
See,
And
I
then it was
didn't
Logan
see
Howland at
that.
left tackle, which, like, I will say, thankfully, Bill Bedenbaugh had the same takeaway that we all did after week 1,
Yeah,
which
you
is
look
you
good.
cannot play Spencer Brown. At all costs, do not put Spencer Brown on the field.
Okay, so back to my original question. Taylor Tatum.
Yeah. 1 carry for 6 yards tonight.
What do you think the reasoning is that he is not getting? Because we know that Sawchuk and Barnes are going to be your guys like this year. Like they're too good not to be. When there's actual blocking, neither one has played worth a crap. Like as far as like, I can't say that they've played well. The blocking has not allowed them to be what they are supposed to be. How about that?
Yeah. Let me Well, actually, you know what? Let me pivot real quick. Make sure we get this taken care of before I answer your
Okay.
question. We need to settle up with our
Parker's not going
advertiser.
to answer the question. No, I'm just
Yes, this podcast, folks, before we go any further, is brought to you by the good folks at Babbel. What if in 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year. Be a better you in 2024 with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. Their tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching, so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. I lived the experience that a lot of us lived learning foreign language growing up. You just learn a bunch of vocabulary. You never really learn how to apply it, how to string sentences together, how to converse in another language. Babbel is designed with that in mind. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others continue to prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Now, here's a special limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, you can get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/OU Insider. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/OU Insider, spelled BABBEL.com/OU Insider. Rules and restrictions may apply. Also, want to remind you, go download the Autograph app, link.ag.fan/boomer, and use promo code boomer to check out the Oklahoma community and start earning real life rewards just for being a fan, courtesy of Tom Brady and the crew at Autograph. Again, link.ag.fan/boomer and use promo code boomer. Now, Brandon, here's my takeaway. Well, one of my overarching takeaways from tonight, and this addresses the question that you asked that pertains to Taylor Tatum and his usage. It's okay to still be learning things in week 2 of the season. It's
Yeah.
okay not to have everything figured out. I don't think anybody has it figured out in week 2 of the season. And yes, there are things you're going to know after 4 weeks of fall camp. And there are things you're going to know after the opener, and there are things you're going to know after a whole off season of being around these guys, watching the way that they carry themselves, not just on the field, but off the field and in the film room. But you're not going to have everything figured out by week 2 of the season. And so that's why my encouragement to everyone, my exhortation would be this. Yeah, we can all sit here and say it was an atrocious performance tonight by Oklahoma. No
Yeah.
one is going to try to sugarcoat what we saw because it was awful. But it's also okay to not be willing to go and extrapolate that speculatively over the course of an entire season and immediately come to the conclusion that, oh, OU's already broken down schooner in week 2. It's only going to be downhill from here. And they're going to be in for a brutalization in year 1 in the SEC. No, I think there are things that this coaching staff is going to figure out, that these players are going to figure out. There are lessons that are going to be learned via the film review of this performance. And next week against Tulane, you'll have the
Yep.
chance to apply some of it. And early in the season in particular, Brandon, as far as personnel is concerned, you're always going to give the benefit of the doubt. I shouldn't say always. More often than not, you're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the veterans. And
Mhm.
so that's the reason I think why you haven't seen a ton of Taylor Tatum yet. It's not because he can't play. We know he can. But early in the season, you're going to give more of an opportunity to the veterans because they've done it before at the collegiate level. And you want to allow them the margin to be able to earn that role or to retain that role, I should say. And if they leave the door open, well, then deploy the freshmen, see if they've got what it
Yeah.
takes, see if they're up to the challenge. And I think that'll happen. I think that'll happen in this backfield because Gavin Sawchuk and Javante Barnes have been middling at best through 2
Yep.
weeks. And Taylor Tatum and what we've seen of him and what limited action we have seen, he's been really, really impressive. But I think the same goes for Seth Luttrell and the offense as a whole. Yes, it was awful tonight. Yes, it can get better. And I think in the aftermath of that performance, Seth Luttrell said everything that you would want your offensive coordinator to say after a performance like that. He stood up there at the podium and he said in so many words, "We were awful tonight. It starts with me. I promise you, I'm going to do all I can to fix it. We're going to get back on the practice field. We're going to get back in the film room and look this over, and we're going to correct our mistakes." And I I especially like the fact that he said, "Look, I'm born and raised in Oklahoma. I grew up here. I played here. I know the expectations, and I know we didn't live up to them tonight. And I know people are going to be upset about that. I know they already are. But again, it's week 2. The season doesn't end here. You can take what happened tonight or what didn't happen tonight, and you can apply the lessons that are to be learned on the practice field throughout the week and come out next week against Tulane and prove that what happened in this contest against Houston is a blip and not a trend, because it has to be for this team. This
Yeah.
cannot be the standard. This cannot be the norm. And I don't think it will be, but it's on this staff and on this offense to go and prove that next week and beyond.
I I'm with you on all of that. I took my first glance at OU Insider just now, which was just bad for me to
Oh,
do
it's
this in the middle of the podcast. And this is my takeaway. Some people need to put the bottle down and not post sometimes because they say
yes,
like we had a
there are
dude
very
telling us how to do our
obviously.
job after the game. Like, you better not get on there and blow smoke up our butts and tell
Yeah,
us that
trust me,
it's
no one
okay.
serious is doing that
Like
tonight.
who's gonna tell you it's good? Like, seriously, but there was like the first post I was put out there was like three other ones the same way from the same person, and so it was interesting. I also find it interesting that Jackson Arnold is now considered just an awful quarterback, and apparently everybody knew the game in Arizona that he was bad after he threw from his 400 yards, which is just crazy. Um, I
Well,
I You want to know what the difference is between that Arizona game, the offense, and now? He played with lack of care and he just went out there and threw the ball. Like,
yeah.
he just let it rip. Like,
Yeah.
that's what as Les
Okay.
Miles said, let her
Here
rip.
and here's another aspect that has been discussed, maybe not to the extent that it should be. The Sooners are less than healthy right now in an overall sense. And
In a
they are
bad way.
missing two very key playmakers at the wide receiver position in Nick Anderson and Jalil
Are
Farouk.
we
And
underestimating Jalil Farouk's injury?
no, I think if anything, we're underestimating the significance of Nick Anderson's absence. Andrell Anthony, did he play tonight? Did he get in the
I did
game at
not
all?
see
I
him.
did
I
not
did
see
not
him
see
either.
him. No.
So, and that was one thing that I completely spaced on asking Brent Venables after the game was Andrell Anthony's status. But um, what I thought was just odd is that there are several instances throughout the game where you lay eyes on the Oklahoma offense and you take stock of the personnel that's out there, and it's Zion Reagans and Brennan Thompson and Deion Burks
Yeah.
at the wide receiver spots. There's
They,
no
they,
size anywhere
no.
between those three.
Nobody's
There's a
6 foot. Not a single 6 footer out there.
no, I mean the tallest one of them is Deion Burks at 5'10. And so, yes, there's a ton of speed there, but there is no diversity of skills across the formation amongst the wideouts. You have three guys whose calling card is explosiveness and their threats or the threat that they provide as a downfield weapon.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was kind of baffling that we didn't see Ivan Carione at all. We didn't see Zion Kearney at all. You
Yeah.
did see JJ Hester, but he didn't catch a pass. And if he was targeted, it
He
wasn't more than
wasn't.
once or
He
twice.
maybe
So
once. Yeah.
yeah. So I thought the usage of the wide receivers was a little befuddling, and I don't think that contributed meaningfully in any way to what little good Oklahoma did offensively tonight.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with so let's just say what it was. Like, you and I before the game, we had somebody that came up and was like, they're going with the pups tonight at wide receiver. It's going to be interesting to see how that works because this is their first real game time action, right? Like, where they're going to be counted on a down in and down out basis and not just situational. And it showed. I think the way that the wide receiver rotation played out shows the lack of confidence that they have after a few guys. Like, and maybe they're trying to get some guys reps to get them prepared just in case for SEC. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like trying to work through this as we're talking because I don't I don't know how you can look at that and say, okay, we're not going to throw any size out there because that doesn't make any sense at all. What that tells me that either one, they don't trust the size that they have, which is weird because Carry On was out there last week, but not this week, right? So that doesn't make sense. Kearney played, and that doesn't make sense that he didn't play. Like there's something going on, or they
Well,
just got lost in the shuffle, lost in the moment, lost in how they did the rotation because things just weren't going well on the field. So they just I don't know. I don't know.
well,
I'm
and I
trying to
think the
figure this out.
your first clue should have like if you were trying to play bottle rocket ball initially and just take the top off, great. But once you figured out that Jackson Arnold wasn't going to be hitting any deep balls, at what point do you shift? At what point do you pivot? And we did not
Yeah.
see a pivot.
Well, I'll say this: like, if Nick Anderson, you better hope he's healthy next week for
Yeah.
Tulane, because if not, you're in big trouble.
Well,
He's going to open everything up for Burks. I think that's the other thing is that they're
exactly.
bracketing Burks.
Exactly.
They are they
Exactly.
are
Like,
you can't bracket two people. That came straight from, let's just say, somebody that knows the offense.
yeah. Well, and if you do want to bracket them both, then you got Bauer Sharp to deal with over the middle, right? So
Correct. So that's exactly what they said.
that you
So
gotta have like at this point it's a non-negotiable. You have to
yeah,
have Nick Anderson healthy for the entire season. You have to have Deion Burks healthy for the entire season, or at least until Jalil Farouk gets back.
yeah,
Those two guys got to avoid the injury bug because I agree. I think they're going to, in a symbiotic type of way, make life much easier on one another and make life much easier on Jackson Arnold.
yes.
I don't think you need Nick Anderson back next week to beat Tulane. Tulane played well against Kansas State today, but I still think Oklahoma is a better team than Kansas State, and I trust that what happened tonight is going to be flushed and we will see improvement next week. It is undeniable and indisputable that if you do not have Nick Anderson back by September 21st for that Tennessee game, you're not hanging with the Volunteers. I'm sorry. Like, there's
I
just
would
no way
argue,
that's happening.
I would argue that he needs to be back next week just to get some sort of repetition and live game action with one
Yeah, and
another.
I think there's some merit to that, certainly. If you
So
can play him next week, I think you do. I initially my opinion was the opposite. I was thinking hold him out till Tennessee, don't risk rushing him back too soon, but at this point, man, like there are some alarm bells sounding after tonight's performance,
yeah,
as well there should be, and you need Nick Anderson to be a factor without exception in every single game for the remainder of the season because if you don't have him in tip-top shape, you don't have him producing, you don't have him taking some of the weight off Deion Burks to be the guy in the passing game for Oklahoma, it's going to be a long season.
I also want to talk about Bates, and
Yeah,
we're
what the
talking about
hell was that
Josh Bates.
like,
That was one of the stupidest penalties I've ever seen. Like, I understand
look,
he's protecting Jackson, but
oh,
dude, why didn't you protect him the rest of the game when their defensive tackle was pushing you back into him the whole time and making him bail and
well,
have to
and
make
Bates, like
passes?
he's a very competitive dude. He's very protective of his guys, and I love that about him, right? He
He
was
gets
the
in
one
fights
that
in practice all the
oh
time
yeah.
too.
Like
Yeah,
in the spring game, he was the one giving Boganowski the business after he just launched himself into Bauer Sharp over the middle. That was
yeah.
Josh Bates that was going over in Boganowski's face and letting him know, hey, not here, not now, not in the spring game. We can't afford having a concussed Bauer Sharp. So I love the fact that he's always going to stick up for his guys, but there's a time and a place to do something the likes of what he did.
Yeah.
And that jeopardized that jeopardized a certain victory for Oklahoma. That gave
Right.
Houston a chance. It opened the door. Or I should say it kept the door cracked open. And ultimately Houston didn't have enough time and it was all for naught. It didn't matter in the grand scheme. But that prevented the game from ending in very unceremonious fashion, prevented the Sooners from being able to walk off the field and bury that performance and move on without having to sweat out a harrowing last 30 seconds where
Yeah.
you have to deal with the frightening reality that Houston does have a chance. Slim as it may be, they could still win this football game.
Well, it wasn't just the stupidity of that penalty. I thought he did not play well the whole game. I, much like a lot of the offensive line, there was some struggle there. You need Branson Hickman back bad, bad.
Big time.
I think that showed this game showed why they went to Garen Hatchett. And obviously Garen Hatchett's banged up because you didn't see him
He did
very
not
much at
play.
all today. Yeah, or at all. Yeah. So um that offensive line, like you're missing your dudes. Like you just are. You're
Yeah.
missing your dudes are not playing outside of Jake Sexton and Fabici Wewu or Wewu. So like that's it. I mean, Jake Taylor's back on the bench, got injured. God, I hope he can play next week. I mean, I thought Logan Helen did an okay job. Okay. Much better than your favorite player. Um right tackle.
Yeah, no.
But um I I don't know. It and then there's people I've read they're like, oh well, Jackson's scared. He looks like he's running. Well, okay. I want to ask you guys, if you had the blocking that he had the last 2 weeks, how would you feel back there? Would you not have happy feet? And I'm not making an excuse for him. I'm telling you the
Yeah.
reality of the
Well,
situation.
correct. It's a symptom, right?
Yes. It is what it is. Like let's see when they're healthy because he didn't have happy feet in the bowl game. Sure, he made freshman mistake, right? Or two or three, but like he also made some just awesome throws in that game that gave everybody hope. Like, okay, well, we see what he could be down the line. We haven't been able to see that yet because he hasn't been given time to do anything. And when he's having to run, he's having to make decisions on the fly. It's already hard enough for somebody that's getting experience right now and like learning as he goes, like trial by fire. Now you're asking him to get trial by fire and have to make decisions in a manner of which that you don't want essentially a freshman to do.
Yeah.
So it's just not good. It's not good. But you want to know what is good? That defensive front for Oklahoma is very, very good.
They're terrifying, man. And
They're
after
good.
the game got over, I was having a conversation with a member of the OU comm staff in the press conference room, and he made a very good point, which was 2 years ago, Oklahoma doesn't win this football game. 2 years
Correct.
ago, Houston gets the ball back with what was it? 2 minutes left. They drive down the field. They kick a field goal. They win 15-14.
Yep.
That's what happens if this game gets played in 2022. The difference between this Oklahoma team in 2024 and that team that we saw in 2022 is that in 2022 they had nobody that felt well, I shouldn't say felt compelled. They had nobody that was capable of kicking it into an extra gear and going and making a play when it
Well,
was time to
Jalen
make a
Redmond
play
could have.
to win
Yeah.
you a football game. Well, and I'm not even saying from a specific position group, just across the board. There was no killer
Gotcha.
instinct with that team in
Oh,
20.
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
The play that Grayson Halton made,
Yeah.
that was a stone cold killer kind of play. That was a play that differentiates this team here in 2024 from the team that went 6-7 in 2022. And in some ways, you started to see that killer instinct emerge for Oklahoma in 2023. There were very few instances where they needed it. The Texas game was one such instance, and Dylan Gabriel clutched up in that football game. But
Yeah.
tonight, for Grayson Halton, of all people, and he has been spectacular thus far this season, but going into the year, who were the guys that we were talking about at defensive tackle? Dominic Williams, Dejon Terry, Jaden Jackson, right? Grayson
Yep.
Halton was kind of the guy that got mentioned in the same breath as, I don't know, Devon Sears,
No,
as
I'd say David Stone.
David Stone, sure, but guys that were certainly regarded as second tier options at defensive tackle. And you can make the case that through 2 games, I would make this case. I would say it is accurate that through 2 games, Grayson Halton has been the most impactful member of Oklahoma's defensive front. And there was no play bigger. There
Oh,
has been no
facts.
play bigger all season, brief as it has been for Oklahoma, than that play that he made uh, to win Oklahoma the football game, in essence.
Yeah, he
Stuffing
is.
stuffing Snead in the end zone for a safety.
So after the game, he was asked about that play, and he said, "Look, he called himself fireman. You run to the fire." And
Yep.
he said this was a fire type situation. The offense wasn't moving. Something needed to be done, and he said we ran into the fire and we made the play that needed to be made. But he specifically said he knew once the ball was handed off that he was getting there. He goes, the second I saw run, he goes, I did exactly what I was taught to do, exactly in that moment. And he goes, I knew I was gonna get that safety. Like he goes, I knew it. Um, by the way, I feared for my life during that time because
Oh yeah,
I
they
had
were right over next to you, weren't they?
not next to me, they were standing on top of me. Like they some for some reason I was making a joke that I was talking to I don't who was it? I was Jesse. Yeah. And Danny Stutzman came over and like the pile starts like backing up and I'm sitting there, I'm behind the red line
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting there like trying to like video it, but I don't know if you can see it in the video camera, like he's about to step on top of me and I like pushed him as hard as I could. And I don't think he'll even remember this, but he turned to look down and then step back even further. I was like, dude, you're about to scuff up my shoes, bro, and knock me back. But yeah, they were like pushing hard. That play though, I'll say it as close as it was to. I guess it had to be reviewed. I don't know. That's what they said. Um, because we're on the field, we don't really get to see all that. But
You
um,
got the benefit of 2 very
yeah,
favorable officiating calls
yes,
tonight,
they did, and
because
changed the whole dynamic of the ball game, right?
they got gifted an early touchdown on that muffed punt that may or may not
Yep.
have been. I'll be honest, looking at the replay, I didn't think he touched the ball. And looking at the replay of the safety, that was one that very
It's
much could have gone either
close.
way. And the difference in
Yep.
both cases, I think, was the call on the field. Because if
Correct.
you don't have conclusive evidence to overturn it, you stick with the call on the field. And the Sooners were fortunate that the call on the field on the muffed punt went their way, and the call on the field with regard to the safety went their way as well. Because
Did
those
did
were the
David
two.
Stone play?
He did play a very, very limited action for David. So I believe he was in there for 2 snaps,
Yeah.
no more than 2 or 3 snaps. It was only one drive of the game where he saw the field.
You want to know who else played and actually almost made a couple of sacks tonight?
Who would that be?
Taylor Wine.
Taylor Wine, really?
Yeah, I thought I saw 44 in there. Maybe I didn't.
Interesting. That must have slipped
Well,
past me.
I thought it was the last drive. I thought they brought him in there. I thought I saw 44.
Oh, no. It might have been Caden Woolard. Caden Woolard got a good bit of run tonight.
Okay.
Um,
Again, I'm through that camera. I now know what you're talking about when you're like, dude, I don't see half this. Like, I have to go back and watch it because it's very difficult through that camera. Mad respect for you guys because I can't see crap.
it becomes an art form. It becomes a skill. It's an acquired skill to be able to take stock of everything that's going on while looking through a camera lens. I would say in general, I can digest about 80% of what goes on, but the other 20% I need to get filled in on after the fact. For instance, Peyton Bowen left the game with an injury. I had no idea why Peyton Bowen was out of the game. I
Yeah,
assumed it
I
was
didn't
injury
either.
related, but I didn't know.
What was his
Peyton
injury?
Peyton Bowen didn't play the entire second half. I still don't know. I don't know if that's been
He
clarified what
walked
exactly the
by
injury.
me perfectly, like he was acting perfectly fine, walked by me, but he looked pissed off. So I didn't say a word to him. I just
Sure.
kept on walking, just kind of patted his shoulder and just kind of walk off. But he was mad, which I think that's was kind of the general consensus of everybody. I did think that I thought it was kind of interesting. The offensive guys and the defensive guys, their personalities were completely and rightfully so opposite in the interview room after the game. Like the one person, which was crazy, and I asked Zach Alley this. I'm like, well, I have to ask you this. Like, Danny Sussman had 15 tackles today. He played phenomenal. I know that he had a couple of plays where he missed TFLs, right? Or just kind of almost let him go, which I don't know. And he brought it up in the middle of like I asked him, I don't remember what the question was, but he goes, I tackled like crap tonight. I've got to fix that. I go, didn't you have 15 tackles? I tackled like crap tonight. Okay, fair enough. So I asked Zach Alley,
Yeah,
what
and
does
you
that
know what?
say about him? And he was like, he's a different breed. He's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
He goes, that goes with why he's so good,
And
which,
I think Danny's right though. And I probably wouldn't even have thought about this unless he himself had said it. But thinking back to it,
yeah, he
man,
had some pretty,
he did not tackle as surely as he typically does.
you know,
But,
there was
there's
one on a third down where he had the dude dead to rights, like 3 yards in the
dead to
backfield.
rights.
And
Yep.
like he wraps him up, and maybe he thought the whistle blew because he had like maybe like his forward progress stop, and he just let him go. The dude just took off running for like another 10 yards. I was like, dude, what is that? That's not Danny though. Like that was just weird. Like I think it was at that point that I was like, this game just if he's doing that, this game doesn't feel right.
Weird
Because
night.
that's not him.
Weird night.
Yeah. College football was weird in general across the board.
Well, and that again, I'm not trying to sunshine pump. I'm not trying to sugarcoat. I'm just saying if there is a silver lining to be found on the small scale pertinent to
Yeah.
your team, it is that the defense played quite well tonight. And on the large scale, it's that a lot of teams that have laid an egg like that through the first 2 weeks of the college football season have gotten beat.
Yep.
You're 2-0 right now. Like if that's the worst you play all year, at least you got a W because I'm sure Notre Dame would have absolutely loved to have had the performance that Oklahoma had today if it meant they ended up winning the football game against Northern Illinois. They got beat on their home field. Oregon got all they could handle from Boise State. Heck, Penn State got all they could handle from Bowling Green. South Florida took Alabama down to the wire. Uh,
Until Alabama blew them out. Yeah, but in the
it-
fourth quarter, they were up
yeah.
16-13. Yep.
Oh, Oklahoma's not the only team that's working through some stuff in the early stages here. They're 2-0, though. A lot of teams that are working through similar issues are not. So, again, if there is a silver lining to be found, your defense played well, won the football game in the end. Also,
Auburn lost to California.
Auburn did lose to California. That was a thing that happened. I was also gonna bring up the fact that Tyler Keltner missed a field goal tonight. So
Oh,
yeah,
God.
the Tyler Keltner coronation lasted all of 1 week, and now here we are again.
Can't kick field goals, Parker. Jeez. No, you can't have a field goal kicker. That's what it is. And the funny thing is if he makes that field goal, you probably don't need that safety. I mean, it's just it's a touchdown because you're up what at
Yeah,
that
it would have
point
been
in time.
17-12
Yep,
if he
yep,
had
it's
hit that
17, 12,
kick.
5 point. Yeah, you're up a touchdown essentially. So I mean, but You got the safety. The safety would have been icing on the cake, would have really put it home, but it
I'm
is
going
what
to
it
go
is.
ahead and preemptively absolve us of the responsibility of finding different offensive MVPs because I think we can both agree it's Jake Roberts. That's kind
It's
of the
Jake
only
Roberts, and
candidate.
that's it. Yep. Yep.
Shout out to Jake Roberts. Happy for him. That first touchdown is a long time coming, and it was cool to witness. Defensive MVP, who do you think it is tonight? I'll give you the obvious one if you want the obvious one.
Grayson Holt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
don't
I'll
even need
say,
to say anything about it. Like he
yeah,
has 3 sacks in the first 2 games and 3.5 actually in the first 2 games, and has what 6 tackles for losses, a forced fumble, a safety, and a fumble recovery, all in a 2 game span. He's pretty freaking good.
then I will lay my proverbial flower at the feet of the other guy that made a highly consequential defensive play tonight, and that would be Robert Spears Jennings.
Yes.
Picked off the pass early in the fourth quarter that set Oklahoma up with a chance to lengthen the lead, and uh, it of course was quickly followed by a 3-and-out, or I should say a 3-play drive that went nowhere and the missed field goal by Tyler Kellner. So it didn't amount to anything, but that was a huge play. And that wasn't the only play Robert Spears Jennings made tonight. He continues to make his presence felt not just on defense, but on special teams as well. And really, really impressed with what he's done through these first 2 weeks. I don't want
He
that to get lost in the shuffle. He's been awesome.
he had a big, I think it was in the first half, maybe. He had a big TFL on a third down.
Yep.
They ran a kind of a stretch play, and he came down on that run fit like a bat out of hell. Just smeared the running back and forced them to. Yeah, I think that was when they missed a field goal. Actually, was
Yeah.
on that drive.
And
So
I couldn't tell. I would have to look back at the film to really get a sense of it. But I don't know if it was RSJ or if it was Kanai Walker that blew the coverage on Houston's lone touchdown of the evening. But if
it
so, I
was RSJ, but because Bowman was yelling at RSJ after
mm,
that play. I didn't see that.
and
So
Bowman would know.
that he would. Anyways, uh I guess that's gonna do it, right?
I mean, I don't know what else is worth talking about.
Oh, you won
This
16
was
to 12. It
this
was an
was a
awful
football game.
it was a game. It was a game that was played on a Saturday night in Norman, Oklahoma, that OU won 16 to 12. They should not have won, but because they are more talented, they won. And the offense is awful right now and needs some
Hey,
resuscitation. They need to go to some CPR classes. get, get
you
get
know
off the
what we didn't
mat.
even bring up, but what is hilarious? You know what
What's
the
that?
first offensive play of the game has been the last 2 weeks? A freaking jet sweep.
Yeah.
Seth Luttrell has run a jet sweep to open each of the last 2 games.
As long as he doesn't do it on the fourth down, I think fans are going to be all right. I want to see, because Friday, we talked about this yesterday, actually. Um, Owasso just let it hang out, dude, on the offense. Like they ran a reverse on a 4th and 2 against Jinx. Like I want to see that type of stuff. Like if you're gonna live and die by it, but I think fans would respect it if you did those type of things. Leach used to do that stuff
Mm-hmm. Hey,
all the
my
time.
my guys out at UTEP tied the game at the end of regulation on a Philly special with no
That's
time left
awesome.
tonight. They ended up losing the game, but it was a cool moment.
Are they
Yeah.
is that program like headed up in a really good direction
Oh
though?
yeah,
Like
yeah, they're in the right hands.
good.
They're they're having the growing pains right now that you'd expect. I mean, we all watched it with OU in 2022, but that's
Yep.
neither here nor there.
Yep.
I
Oh,
I just think it's hilarious that after tonight there are so many folks that are singing a markedly different tune than they were a year ago. There are people tonight saying, you know what, Jeff Levy wasn't all that bad, or you know what, Dylan
Oh
Gabriel
yeah.
wasn't all that bad. It's hey, if you'd have told me that 2 games into the season there'd be the same people that were running those guys off the ranch a year ago, actively wishing that they were back in town, uh, that's life though. That's the circle of life in college football.
Um,
One one
it's
day you're
rough.
eating, the next day you're on the menu.
Yeah, it's rough. Good news. OU Insider Tailgate is officially back this coming Friday versus Tulane.
Saturday.
So Saturday, excuse me, Saturday versus Tulane. Dude, it's so late. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We have, is it a margarita daiquiri machine or something like that? We'll have some fun.
There
We
will
will
be
have,
boozy beverages. There will
yeah,
be EA Sports College Football 25.
yes, there will be college football games, actual real games being played on one television, or you can play the Xbox or PlayStation. We haven't really decided which console I'm going to go get, but we're going to have it out there for you guys. And it's going to be awesome. Going to have good fun. We're at food, get to hang out with all of us before the game. And we're going to be doing that every week. So home and away for most of them, almost all of them, I think. And yeah, it's going to be a good time. So once we get the logistics of exactly where we're going to be, we're going to put that out there for everybody. Come say hello to us at the OU Insider Tailgate. It was a huge hit last year. That's why we're bringing it back. And we love hanging out with you guys and getting to meet all the fans. Um, I'll also say that normally players' families show up at our tailgate just randomly, and recruits and their families will just show up, just walk up and just start hanging out with us because they obviously Parker and I we cover them and stuff like that. So there's a relationship there, but you'll get to come mingle, get to meet some of the families, get to meet some of the recruits, say hi, shake your hand, all that. It's a cool deal. It's fun. So OU Insider Tailgate is back starting this next week. First Tulane. Exciting, exciting stuff. All right. Subscribe to this YouTube channel or any podcast, whatever you're listening to us on right now. Give us a like, give us some 5 stars, give it a thumbs up, whatever. Make sure you hit the notification button so that you know every time we drop a new video. We drop a lot of videos, a lot of podcasts, a lot of content for you guys on all these channels to make sure that you guys are up to date on everything on
One
OU
last
Insider.
word.
Go ahead.
One last word before we sign off. Excellent work tonight, Luke Elzinga.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do
he
not
was
believe we have
good.
mentioned him by name throughout this podcast, but it is only right that he was the first guy that Brent Venables acknowledged in his post-game press
Correct.
conference. He is the last guy that we will acknowledge on this iteration of the OU Insider Under the Visor post-game podcast. 8 punts tonight, and all of them were beauties.
8 punts. Like I can't remember the last time I've ever seen OU punt the ball 8 times, but I digress. All right. Make sure you're subscribed to OU Insider VIP. We got a lot of recruiting stuff that are coming up this next week. And the Tulane and Tennessee games are going to be, it's going to be a chef's kiss of visitors coming into town over the next few weeks. If you like recruiting, it's $9.95 a month. $99.95 will get you $99.95 will get you a whole year, all the way to 2025, whatever date you sign up. $9.95 will get you a month of OU Insider. If you want to give us a try, give us a try. But the next 2 weeks, awesome, awesome, awesome. Lots of recruiting intel coming your way from Parker and myself. College students, if you have a .edu and you enjoy being up to date on everything OU, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, softball, whatever it is, you like recruiting, all that, email us from your .edu. I don't care if you go to Timbuktu University. I don't care, whatever. You have a .edu email us. We will give you OU Insider for $11.95. That's not even $2 a month. That is an awesome, awesome, awesome deal. So again, make sure you sign up. OU Insider. Email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. We will send you a promo code. That way you get OU Insider for $11.95. It's just one-time payment. That's all you got to do. It's 90% off the regular price, which is amazing for you guys, or 88% or something like that. But it's an amazing deal. and only $11.95. Again, email us ouinsider@rivals.com if you have a .edu. So yeah, for Parker Thune, my name's Brandon Drum. That's it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners post-game podcast. You guys have a blessed night.